In the northernmost reaches of planet Earth, where the sun disappears for months on end and polar darkness dominates the horizon, there exists an underwater universe that defies all human conceptions about the limits of life. The Arctic Ocean, covering approximately 14 million square kilometers around the North Pole, holds secrets beneath its icy waters that science has only begun to unravel. Here, where temperatures plunge to -2 degrees Celsius, without the water completely solidifying due to its salinity, extraordinary creatures have developed adaptations that seem to defy the very laws of biology. This is a realm where life not only survives, but thrives with a resilience that compels us to redefine our understanding of existence in extreme conditions. From the Barents and Beaufort Seas to the depths of the Canadian Basin, from the waters surrounding Greenland to the channels that meander through the Canadian Arctic archipelago, prepare to dive into one of the last great frozen mysteries of our planet, where each creature tells an epic story of survival, adaptation, and unimaginable beauty on the icy frontiers of life. In the turquoise and crystalline waters of the Lancaster Strait, which connects Baffin Bay to the Beaufort Sea, traversing the heart of the Canadian Arctic archipelago, emerges a creature that embodies the majesty of the polar oceans. The bowhead whale, scientifically known as Balaena mysticetus, glides silently beneath ice floes up to 3 meters thick, using its massive arched head as a natural icebreaker. This extraordinary cetacean, which can reach 18 meters in length and weigh up to 100 tons, boasts the longest baleen plates in the animal kingdom, measuring an impressive 4.5 meters, structures that function as gigantic sieves to filter millions of tiny crustaceans called copepods and Arctic krill from the nutrient-rich waters. What makes this species truly extraordinary is not only its colossal size, but its unparalleled longevity, with individuals that can live for over 200 years, traversing entire centuries under the Arctic ice, carrying on their bodies ancient scars from 19th century hunters' harpoons and memories of oceans that no longer exist. The mesmerizing beauty of bowhead whales is fully revealed when they perform complex social behaviors in the open waters of the Chukchi Sea, located between Alaska and eastern Siberia. Entire family groups gather in synchronized formations, their deep, melancholic vocalizations echoing hundreds of kilometers through the Arctic depths, creating underwater symphonies that scientists have only recently begun to decipher. During the brief Arctic summer, when the midnight sun bathes the waters in perpetual golden light, these whales migrate to intensive feeding grounds in shallow coastal regions, where the melting ice releases bursts of biological productivity. Watching them emerge vertically through openings in the ice, their gigantic mouths open in a behavior called surface feeding, while gulls and northern fulmars frantically circle around catching escaping fish, is to witness one of the oldest and most unchanged spectacles of Arctic nature. A dance between predator and prey that has been occurring since before the last ice age. On vast, floating ice floes that drift slowly across the Laptov Sea, north of the Siberian coast, a colony of ringed seals rests under the Arctic summer sun, their plump bodies perfectly adapted for life between two worlds. The ringed seal, Pusa hispida, is the smallest of the true Arctic seals, measuring only 1.5 meters in length and weighing between 50 and 70 kilograms. But what it lacks in size, it makes up for in extraordinary ingenuity and resilience. These remarkable creatures maintain multiple breathing holes in the ice throughout the polar winter, using their robust front claws to constantly scrape the frozen surface, preventing their vital pathways to atmospheric air from closing completely. Beneath the 3-meter-thick ice, they hunt Arctic fish such as polar cod and small crustaceans, navigating underwater labyrinths in near-total darkness, using their highly sensitive whiskers to detect the subtlest vibrations of moving prey. The ringed seal's true ingenuity is revealed during the breeding season, when temperatures can plummet to -50 degrees Celsius above the ice. Pregnant females excavate elaborate snow burrows over their breathing holes, creating isolated chambers where they will give birth to their pups covered in fluffy white fur. These natural architectural structures, invisible to terrestrial predators like the polar bear, maintain internal temperatures up to 20 degrees Celsius, warmer than the freezing external environment. Ringed seal pups are born weighing only 4.5 kilograms, but thanks to their extraordinarily rich breast milk, containing 50% fat, they gain weight at an impressive rate, preparing for their first plunge into the frigid waters of the Arctic. In the turquoise waters surrounding the Svalbard archipelago, a Norwegian territory lying between mainland Norway and the North Pole, we can observe these marine mammals in their seasonal survival dance, diving to depths of 90 meters and remaining submerged for up to 25 minutes, while exploring the rich underwater gardens of algae and invertebrates that thrive in the cold Arctic currents. On the dramatic, vertical cliffs of Wrangel Island, a remote outpost in the Chukchi Sea, considered the last resting place of woolly mammoths, and now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, millions of seabirds create a suspended metropolis, pulsating with life and frenetic energy. The common guillemot, or common guillemot as it is known in scientific Portuguese, Uria algae, dominates these rocky walls with colonies that can house more than 1 million individuals, transforming the bare rock into a living mosaic of black, white, and brown. These extraordinary birds, which measure approximately 45 centimeters in length and weigh about 1 kilogram, are the deepest divers among all Arctic birds, capable of reaching dizzying depths of 180 meters while chasing schools of capelin and Arctic cod. Their wings have evolved to function as underwater fins, allowing them to literally fly through the water with an agility that rivals the very fish they hunt. While their densely packed feathers, containing more than 12 feathers per square centimeter, provide perfect insulation against waters that fluctuate around 0 degrees Celsius. The visual spectacle of Murris's breeding colonies reaches its peak during the brief Arctic summer, when each female lays a single pear-shaped egg directly onto the bare rock without building any nest. This peculiar egg shape is not an evolutionary coincidence, but an ingenious adaptation that causes the egg to roll in tight circles if disturbed, preventing it from falling off the narrow cliff edges. In the emerald green waters below the colonies, in the Barents Sea stretching between Norway, Russia, and the Svalbard archipelago, these birds perform synchronized dives in groups that can include hundreds of individuals, creating a literal rain of predators that confuses and corrals entire schools of fish. Other species share these icy cliffs, including the beautiful kittiwake with its immaculate white plumage and coal-black wingtips, the ornate puffin with its impossibly vibrant colors, and the northern fulmar that glides on the updrafts with an elegance that seems to defy gravity, all forming a complex and interdependent community that defines the very concept of Arctic biodiversity. In the abyssal depths of the Nansen Basin, the deepest region of the Arctic Ocean plunging beyond 5,500 meters below the undulating surface of the sea ice, exists an alien world that defies human imagination. Here, where crushing pressure reaches 550 atmospheres and the temperature remains constantly at -2 degrees Celsius, bizarre and wondrous creatures have developed adaptations that seem to belong more to science fiction than to biological reality. The polar cod, Boreogadus sayada, reigns as the most abundant and ecologically crucial fish in the Arctic, forming dense schools that can extend for kilometers beneath the permanent sea ice. This extraordinary fish, rarely exceeding 25 centimeters in length, produces specialized antifreeze proteins in its blood that prevent the formation of deadly ice crystals in its tissues, allowing it to inhabit waters that are technically below the freezing point of non-saline water. The entire Arctic food web depends on this humble but absolutely essential species, which serves as a vital link between the tiny zooplankton and the large predators that dominate the polar waters. In the shallower regions of the Chukchi continental shelf, which stretches for thousands of square kilometers with average depths of only 50 meters, other extraordinary fish thrive in specialized niches. The Arctic sculpin, with its prehistoric appearance of a broad, flattened head, remains motionless on the ocean floor covered in fine sediments, its mottled coloration providing perfect camouflage as it patiently waits for unsuspecting shrimp and polychaete worms to approach within range of its lightning strike. Even more remarkable is the Arctic lionfish, unrelated to its tropical namesake but equally fascinating, with its long pelvic fins that it uses to literally walk on the ocean floor like an aquatic insect, searching for amphipods and other small invertebrates among the lush forests of brown and red algae that grow in the waters illuminated by the polar summer sun, creating underwater gardens of astonishing beauty that very few humans have ever witnessed in person. Over the past 3 decades, the Arctic Ocean has witnessed transformations occurring at a speed that alarms scientists around the globe. The minimum extent of sea ice at the end of each summer is decreasing at a rate of approximately 13% per decade, a loss equivalent to an area larger than Mexico disappearing every 10 years. This dramatic change is not just represented by numbers on scientific graphs, but a fundamental reorganization of the entire Arctic ecosystem that has evolved over millions of years to function in harmony with permanent and seasonal sea ice. The microscopic algae that grow on the underside of the sea ice, forming a vital yellowish-green carpet that feeds zooplankton, are losing their essential substrate. Copepods that depend on these algae are experiencing changes in their reproductive cycles, alterations that cascade through the entire food chain, reaching bowhead whales, ringed seals, walruses, and polar bears that depend on the productivity of this region for their long-term survival. Recent observations in the Fram Strait, the deep corridor between Greenland and Svalbard, where the Arctic Ocean exchanges waters with the Atlantic Ocean, reveal a growing invasion of subarctic species that are beginning to colonize waters traditionally too cold for their survival. Atlantic cod, capelin from warmer waters, and even some species of squid are being documented in increasingly northerly latitudes, creating competitive and predatory dynamics that Arctic experts cannot predict with absolute certainty. The Inuit and Yupik indigenous communities, whose ancestors inhabited these regions for over 4,000 years, report changes in the migration patterns of seals and whales, dangerous thinning of sea ice that makes traditional hunting risky, and the appearance of fish species that their grandparents never saw in these waters. This frozen ocean, which seemed eternal and unchanging like the stars in the Arctic sky, is sending us urgent messages about the future, not only of the Arctic, but of the entire planet we share. A powerful reminder that these frozen mysteries at the edge of life deserve not only our admiration, but our most determined and immediate protection for future generations who will yet come to know these wonders. The deep Arctic reveals that life finds extraordinary ways even in the most hostile and challenging environments on our planet. If this journey through the frozen mysteries touched your heart and broadened your vision of nature's resilience, please like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to follow more expeditions to the most remote and fascinating places on Earth. Share this documentary and be part of the movement to raise awareness about the great importance of our polar oceans.